Welcome to the Reward Table. It's a storytelling series by Tartan Corporate Business, also known as CBG. This business is about how we create special rewards for people and all. Why we call it Reward Table? Because, I won't say let each of the guests speak about what does it mean. Today we have Priya. She is the AVP of People Function. Priya has been handling the HR function in Titan for about 10 years. And she's worked with companies like Taj, Hindustan Lever, Mahindra. Thanks, Priya, for coming here.
Thank you, my pleasure.
We also have Kalpana Rangamani. She is the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for the premium brands of Titan. And Kalpana has been about more than 20 years now in Titan. And Kalpana is also ex-Hindustan Lever. Thank you, Kalpana, for coming.
Thank you.
We also have Ashok, who's on the show today. Ashok is the Chief Financial Officer who handles all the finances of Titan, and he's been working in Tata Group for many, many years, if I remember correct. He's been in Titan for almost about 4.5, 5 years, and he's been associated for Tata Group for more than 20 years now. Yeah. Thank you all of you.
25 years.
25 years, very good. Thanks, sir. Thanks all of you for coming here. Three of you are very diverse in terms of your roles, right? HR, sales, marketing, finance. And I'm sure you have a different point of view on reward, recognition, recognizing people, how is it there. So what I want to understand is, and what people would like to understand is, what is the point of view? What is your point of view with regard to the reward recognition happen? And also, how do you go about the process of shortlisting? How do you go about the whole process? Let's start with Priya.
Thanks. So it's a pleasure to be here, Sanjay, and I think this, if I'm not mistaken, is the first of its kind that we're doing for the corporate business group, while the function itself has been there for many decades. I think there has been a lot of transformation and transition in the way reward recognition is being looked at, and a lot more post-COVID, I would say, shifts have taken place where organizations are also looking at this very carefully. So from an era where it was a little bit more about on-the-spot awards or, being looked at purely from, let's say, reward aspect, I think the recognition element, and the difference between the two is reward is monetary, right? But recognition is about, who is appreciating me? Am I being appreciated? And I think both have really come together now, and organizations are looking at a lot of opportunities during the year where they want to use those as platforms to recognition. So yes, there is one which is the regular performance management, appraisals, promotions, performance linked, but there are those which are non-performance linked as well. And for example, in Titan we talk about long service, where people are recognized for the time they have spent in the organization. And it goes, in fact, we know that in Titan there are people who are also spent 25, 30 years, and we continue to recognize them in this forum. Then there are also recognitions which, and I want to quote the one which our MD Venkat has started in the last few years, which is the Pillars of Titan, right? Where and it was such a surprise element, and I think the surprise element, it is also a factor that is important in the way this is being done. So while individuals were being recognized for the work that they have contributed towards, but the families were also recognized. And you remember, Sanjay, that our videos of our family members really talking about how aspects that we otherwise would not hear was played in front of everybody. And I think those are becoming extremely important. So I think some of the shifts and themes that I'm seeing is a lot more customization, a lot more about individual. And I also see that with the way social media disruption has happened, people wanting to also really talk about it in the platform. So we have a watch that we give to every new joinee in the organization, and I have seen people who really flaunt it and talk about it with a lot of pride and actually take pictures of it and say, this is my day one, right? And so there is also pride associated to the way both reward and recognition is taking place. And I think organizations are now paying a lot more attention. Budgets are also being looked at very differently in this space. And but more importantly, I think people are focusing on the authenticity of it, right? How is it customized? How is it for me, for that individual? How do you make it really special instead of making it more generic?
Oh, that's very nice, very nice. And I like the way you talk about the recognition and the Pillars of Titan story. That's a really wonderful story. Thanks, Priya. Kalpana?
So I think one of the advantages of working for a retail organization is that the best stories actually come from our retail stores. The ones that really touch your hearts, you come get from your retail stores. And coincidentally, this week, I was in a conversation with one of our stores because we were faced with a situation where a gentleman had walked into the store with a watch to repair. And this was a model that we no longer sold, but it was something that had been given to him as a memento by one of his organizations. And try as we did to try and convince him, saying, "Aap isko exchange kar lo, we'll give you a replacement, we'll try and find you the next best option." This gentleman just did not want to part with that watch. And he said, "I don't care what you do, I don't care how much money it costs, but you have to help me repair this watch." And that was such a touching moment. So it took many hours of lots of people in office, in the retail store, in the field team, trying to figure out how do we solve this. And our fantastic folks at the factory actually managed to say, yes, we can actually repair this for him. But what it leads me to believe is, very often we look at rewards and recognition in terms of current value. Oh, we've given a gift worth 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. Or this is the latest fad and the employee will probably be very happy with this. And what this incident and many such incidents made me realize is that the sort of heritage value of some of these gifts is perhaps much, much more than the value of the gift when it's given. And very often we are tempted to evaluate it on acha aaj mujhe ye mila, and this is what it's worth. But in my own life, I can tell you that you look back on these things, say 10 years later, 5 years later, it doesn't matter whether you're working in the same organization or not, but it has such huge value at that point in time. And maybe we should start looking at this as heirlooms more than the value of the product at that point in time.
That's an amazing story. Yeah. It's really amazing story. Ashok, I'm sure you have something special to share.
No, so I thought I will share two of the things, in my life. If you all recall, Titan has launched Edge watches in 2002, and it was a sensation. It was a marvel of engineering, and it caught imagination of, at least Indians, who were around. And I was in Tata Inc. US at that point of time, and we were about to commemorate 60th anniversary of Tata Inc. And Tata Inc. was not a very large company. I was CFO, and so 3-4 of us kind of conceptualized that whole event. And we were thinking about what do we give to our own employees and the guests whom we invite. And they were mostly the American guests. And so something which we can very proudly present to them as a made in India and a Tata Group product. And our eyes were set on Titan Edge watch. And Titan at that point of time, we connected with them. Very, very kind of warm response to the whole idea, and they created this Titan Edge watch. It is 2005 watch, and it is 2 versions, men and women. And I on the background, all the things are crafted, and I still love this watch. And this reminds me the whole that 60th year commemoration and the contribution and the praise we got from all the guests in YT who came in for this product. At that point of time, this was such a wonderful thing. And the second, which is much more recent and which I am wearing today, it's again Titan Edge watch. I also want to tell that after this watch, I kind of got many Edge watches myself. I purchased because I became so much fan of Titan Edge. And now this is another Titan Edge watch, which is so important. Today is the first death anniversary of Mr. Ratan Tata, and this watch has a special inscription of his signature, and this is a limited edition watch, and I am a proud recipient of one of this watch, and I am so feeling emotional today because this is the first death anniversary, and I purposely chose to wear this watch. So I think these watches, like as a recipient, these wonderful women talked about as a giver or what as a HR, but as a recipient I can vouch and I can tell how much value, much more value than the cost involved these things have in the life of any person or employee.
I'm
so
wondering,
very proud to be.
Were you the person in our store last week getting your old mementos repaired?
Could be possible because his watch I saw is working.
Yeah.
So wow. And what I'm really amazed is the way you have preserved that watch which you got in 2005 or something.
Yeah, 2005.
20 years for that watch.
I think that's the other thing about the value bit, right?
Yeah.
It is far beyond just the value of the product. It's also about the longevity of it. The story that goes from generation to generation on that, I think, is an important aspect.
And now, no, I keep thinking, a lot of us, when we're trying to think of these gifts or mementos, we get carried away by things that are very, very current or in fashion right now. And I keep thinking, but what is in fashion today will go out of fashion tomorrow, and how does this product then remain with this person for the rest of their life?
Actually, it'll be great if, when this goes out, if people share their stories as well of what, what Ashok shared. If there are those emotional moments where people have also experiences, it'll be really good to capture and share with us what are your stories of those gifts and what are the emotional stories that you want to, and if you share, it stays, right, forever. That's what they say in the digital media today, and maybe it's a great way of keeping it alive.
That's a good. I heard you speaking about the value, the cost, but if I were to start with you and then take opinion of Ashok and Priya, how do you balance this cost versus value? And everything is about itna budget hai, this is the cost we want to go, but how do you keep that in mind when you want to create something special?
So I think our teams at the CBG, and you'll probably be aware, Sanjay, I think they go to a lot of effort. Like something that Priya mentioned, saying how do you make something which is a generic object really customized to that particular institution or person or occasion. And that is what brings it's almost like priceless. How do you put a price on that memory or that emotion? And I know for a fact, because we work very closely with the CBG team, the team and your team really works very hard with designers, with companies to really understand what is this occasion. What is it you're celebrating? What is your past been like? What is the milestone? What does it signify? What are the values that your organization wants to celebrate? Or what is it that you want to celebrate in that employee? And they do a lot of work to actually then create customized solutions. It could be something as simple as an inscription on the back cover. It could be something on the dial. But the minute you put something like that on a product that is going to stay with you for the next 50 years, 100 years, I think it changes the price value equation completely. Because then it is like, how do I put a price on that? How do I put a cost onto that? That's one of the ways in which I think, the effort and the thought that goes into creating that completely changes the price value equation.
So what's your financial view on that?
No, I think, one is that Titan being such a people-centric organization and the conversation around what kind of reward we give to people or recognition we give to people, while it is more people domain but one belief which is very clearly there and what Kalpana referred to, that whatever cost we incur, and if we are creative, we are innovative, we are creating something exclusive, the value perceived by the recipient is a multiplier of that cost. And from that point of view, lot of flexibility is there, while at the end of it there is budgets even within Titan what we can incur, but I think it is the innovation, creativity, exclusivity around that. And we are also flexible from finance side, and HR is always flexible in these matters. So
I'm going to record Ashok saying
it is
finance is
recorded.
flexible.
It's
Recorded now for posterity.
I think the whole point came alive when Ashok shared his two stories, right? And if you ask me, while both are edge watches, right? Now, the value, the moment there is an inscription, there is, Mr. Ratan Tata's signature on that. It is actually, there is no price that you can put to it, right? So I think what he did not mention is that after he got this watch, there are many people who've seen this watch and they want that watch, but it's not available now. So I think one aspect, and I know CBG has done this brilliantly, be it with many companies, be it like large orders with TCS, Grasim and many other companies, where there is exclusivity because some of those designs are perhaps shot only for that order or only for that purpose. It is not available. So I think the rarity is a very important factor in the price value perception. Exclusivity is what we call it. And it should mean something for the person who's receiving it. There has to be a certain, I would say, a tug in the heart that happens. And then I believe that people don't look at it from only a price angle. And I also feel all of these brings in a certain, so like, the story that Ashok shared, I'm sure the group that received this, it creates pride, belongingness, it creates a sense of camaraderie too. And these are very softer aspects. Often you cannot put a value to it, but the value it unlocks by doing this, I think, is exponential.
I'm reminded that my mother would probably say that, you will not understand the value of this today. तुमको 20 साल बाद you will understand the value of this. And I feel that sometimes it's like that when we receive a corporate gift or a memento.
Certainly in parenting we are realizing
Correct.
a lot of that.
As parents, I'm realizing that a lot of things that my mother said is actually true and right. But this realization, I think it's a little bit like that, huh? Maybe today you look at it and say, "Arey, ye kya?" But some of these things over time, and 20 years later, you will think back and say, "I'm so glad I had
this."
this."
You can quote your mother when you're giving the example to your son.
And you see also this whole element of surprise when you are not expecting something comes to you, and authenticity attached to that. Like we were talking that the value of those handwritten notes, when you receive from your manager or your father, or you are still preserving some of those letters which your father wrote to you just because it was a handwritten thing. And even with managers, we have seen, we have been keeping ourselves, our handwritten note people are keeping, and sometimes we watch, they are so happy about that. So I think all those elements, when you combine, you can really...
No, I can really relate. I was looking at some photographs at the home, the message at the back, I still preserve those photographs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So actually, I don't think it's only about art, the categories that we manufacture or market or sell. I think this is just in general, whichever category our customers choose. I think if they can keep in mind saying, what will this product look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now? That would be absolutely great. And I love the point that Ashok made, saying even as the organization or managers giving this out, whatever we can do to personalize that occasion, is it a handwritten note, is it something else, just adds value tremendously.
Personalization, customization, if I were to take those words. But how do you see in the last few years, how is the reward recognition changed, especially from the employee's point of view, their expectation? Has something changed?
So before answering that question, I just want to add to the point previously. I think organizations should also look at this as a way of preserving their culture, their identity, in fact, for a really long time, right? Because they don't just stay for that moment, specifically where you're talking of, let's say, whether it's jewelry, watches, bags, or whatever, people are opting as gifts. It remains forever, right? So I just want to add that there is also a certain identity that people associate with the gift they get from the organization. And there is a lot of, I think, when people choose, Tata Group or Titan, I've seen that many a times they also talk about it is Indian company, we want to really promote that, preserve that, and we also, our values, we kind of relate to the way a Tata Group company is or a Titan is. And I think there's also that identity is also an angle when companies make the choice of what kind of gifts that they want to give to the employees.
Very beautiful.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
No, but it's a very beautiful point, and I'm loving the way you expressed it. Very good. So, how about the the reward recognition? How has it changed in the US in terms of expectation of people and
So I think the days of giving pure money or discount coupons, I think those are gone, if I may use the phrase. I think people, so it's not gone. Let me put it that I think the value attached to that perhaps is, it's an easy thing to do. So it could even be, has enough thought gone into when you are putting together a gift for me, right? And every year when we also look at the different platforms of, so some you can't avoid, because when you do mass and when you do some spot recognitions, which is easy, you may look at those options. But when you want to look at very special occasions, I think keeping in mind who you're designing it for, I think is very important. And I'm sorry to say this, Ashok, but I'm saying instead of just keeping the budget is important. I'm not saying no, but I think in that budget, you can still get something that is meaningful for the other person. And I think organizations are moving towards that because people are moving towards that, right? People are recognizing when there is authenticity to the way something is done, and when something is not done authentically, people also call that out. I think today it's instant. It's the days of instant feedback. Nobody's going to wait for some feedback to come. You will see it in social media, or even people come and tell you that. The other, I think you mentioned earlier also, Sanjay, is the choices. I think people also like choices. So I think there are organizations where it's not about saying I'll only give you this, but there are also times when they're looking at building a certain bouquet or portfolio of choices, so that what you identify with, you can kind of pick from that. I mean, so there are different ways in which this is being looked at. Also, I feel a lot more post-COVID, because there has been a large part of working from home, remote, but now that organizations are also looking at, because culture building only happens when people come together. So reward recognitions have also become about culture building, right? It's about people are recognizing collaboration, people are recognizing innovation. So there is a lot of culture building also that is linked to the way reward recognition is being considered.
On this shift on last 4-5 years, I think for the young generation, I think sustainability clicks in very well. Mm-hmm. That if you are thinking about a gift which conveys that you care for sustainability, and that conveys the organizational value, I think people like that. And the other shift, the frequency, I think, people love a little bit more, not wait for something happening annually. It is more quick and immediate, and value is not important, but authenticity is very important.
That's a brilliant point. Yeah. That's a brilliant point. I've known of companies who are now giving productivity incentive awards every month.
Yeah.
And these are manufacturing companies. That's a beautiful point. So, if I were to look at this, a meaningful recognition when it happens. So, what takes it beyond the reward? The recognition, how do you relate it beyond the reward given along with it?
For example, the surprise element, I think, is a very important aspect when you're looking at, because that takes it beyond. For example, let's say, when you're getting it from your performance link to something, those are expected, right? But the moment to make it special, when it is going beyond something that was totally unexpected, and the surprise element comes in. So I'll give you this. This is I think the first BAM that Business Associate Meet, as we call it, right? That 2005, and I was in Titan, my first stint. And I had attended that one, and there was this, you walk into the room and there was this really nice gift that was placed there. But it was not just about the gift. There was a Mario Miranda painting that really spoke about Titan values. And you know how Mario Miranda paints, it's a little bit, it's got a little fun and humor element to it, but it also brings out the message right there. And I still have it. And I feel that those kind of things really take it beyond just being a gift placed there, because you are able to connect it to, so for me, even sitting now after 20 years, I relate it to that, I preserved it. So I think that perhaps for me is an important element, bringing in the surprise. The second thing is what makes it also go beyond just being a reward is
Can I add on, please?
Yeah, please go
Because
ahead.
it's something that I think HR does very well in Titan, which is that we include the families of the employee in the reward. And obviously not for every single reward, but I've seen this happen multiple times. And it's at a different level. So either with families being invited to functions where employees are being rewarded, or just being, like you were saying, recording messages of families, members, sometimes to be played at the occasion when the rewards or the recognition is being given. I have seen people just become so emotional and tear up, and and then it's almost like the whole family is part of the employee base and not just the employee.
So I remember this story, which obviously I wasn't there, but I've heard from somebody else, where Venkat, our MD, was recognizing the housekeeping and security of I think it was in one of the regions, one location. And they were, I think he had got letters or something written for each of them, and some of it what their family members had to say about them. And in that event, some of them actually got a letter which was written by Venkat's wife and daughters. and they read it out there. And
They read it out for Venkat.
for Venkat in that same event. And I remember he said that he couldn't stop crying, with what was shared by, and things that he otherwise, when you go back to family, it's not that you sit and talk in that manner, right? So when the family is really talking about how they see you, they love you and they value you, I think those will forever be etched. No, while it's also etched in my mind in some ways, because those, I think, make it very special.
So that's what I call recognition with a capital R. If I would put it this way.
With a capital E, high emotion.
High emotion. Emotional recognition.
Yeah.
Or recognition filled with emotions.
Yeah.
So that goes on to maybe the last thing I want to discuss with you is how do you balance the reward, the recognition and the cost, these elements, and how do you bring a balance about it?
So to be honest, there is a budget, right? There is a guardrail, and you. But I think more importantly, it's how do you get more out of that? I think that's really how the thinking is now, and reward has a value to it. Actually, recognition is not so much like what Ashok and Kalpana were saying when it's a handwritten role. Really, that does not have a monetary aspect to it, but that's about I would say that really goes back to the organization's values, culture, how much are you encouraging some of that to take place. Rewards, yes, I think, I would say in the last, and after I knew I was coming in for this round, I just went back to check. In a lot of our, in the last 4-5 years, I would say, there has been a disproportionate shift that we've seen in the amount of rewards also that we are giving in. And it's cultures built from the top. So right from how our MD has started, whether it's the pillars of Titan, powerhouse of Titan, where every level there is recognition annual that happens without fail. Now it's become like almost a culture and a ritual. Going down to managers having the empowerment. See, that's also important, Sanjay. You have to there has to be some amount of empowerment that all managers have, that they can do some instant recognition. And what Ashok is saying is very critical, because people are not waiting for an annual system now. People are now saying, hey, listen, instant, let me know. It's a day of immediate feedback, right? So those are places where some of our, in fact, we've increased our budgets, where the managers are recognizing their team members. And then there are, our Oscar, what I call the Titans Oscar, like the Outstanding Titanian Dream Team, is another great platform where we recognize both teams as well as individual contributors. And we have, in fact, over the years increased the rewards for that. The number of people who also apply have gone up, and the teams, earlier we used to have a team size of 5 and 6. Now it's taken up to 10 people in a team that gets recognized. So there is disproportionate investment that companies are also making in putting in budgets for that. But I think it's not just money, it's getting more out of it, and I think that is more important.
And there are some places where honestly when I struggle to understand what is this equation. So I know, for example, in the CBG team, we also supply gold coins to be given out as part of dealer incentives by companies, etc. Right? And we've seen time and again that if the dealer were offered by whichever company, saying, I will give you the same amount in cash today, or I will give you a gold coin of exactly the same value, most times the dealers prefer gold coin. Now you can argue saying what is the equation in their mind, I'm giving you exactly the same amount of cash today. You could take that cash and go buy a gold coin of your own. But I don't know whether it's the brand, I don't know whether it's the emotional value of gold, I don't know whether it's the feeling of receiving gold from someone, because in India there is also prosperity, right? It signals prosperity in our minds.
I can quote a dealer which says he took the gold coin to his wife. He says, my MD gave me a Tanishq gold coin, and he took the gold coin back to his wife, and what his wife did was, ye aapka nahi hai, mera hai. She kept it with.
Yeah.
So it becomes a family.
Yeah. So.
And the same thing, like when there are incentives and at scale things are happening, perhaps sometimes value becomes important in mind of recipient. But when you think about recognition, recognition has to be authentic. But if you add a small reward with that, it helps to relive that moment of joy multiple times in your life. And that is where the recognition and reward coming together makes it a very multiplier kind of thing.
Which is like going beyond expectation.
Yeah, because every time you look at that, you are able to relive that joy and moment, because that reward helps you to kind of keep remembering that, and that's very important.
It's really nice stories you guys shared, and I'm getting goosebumps, if you put it this way. I'm just remembering few things. Thank you so much for making it here. Thanks Ashok, thanks Priya, thanks Kalpana. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.